Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of HSP TV. I am your host, Barbara, and today I am joined by the wonderful Candice Shepard. And we are going to be talking about how you are meant for more. And this is a topic that is dear to both of our hearts. So I've been looking forward to talking about this, and I want to give you a really warm welcome. Thanks for joining me today and talking about this very important topic.
Hey Barbara, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. So we had some sort of well, I want to say that was almost Dutch what came out. I'm mixing my languages. I want to say we had a pre-talk. That's what I was going to, where we talked a little bit about how people are afraid of being themselves and how that leads to a variety of problems.
Right.
So is that also your personal experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is fear, right? We fear that if people really know us, really know who we are, and then don't like us, or if they really know who we are, then they won't like us, and that fear causes us to sort of shrink away from who we really are, who we were made to be, who we were created to be, and it really diminishes what we can accomplish and our light in the world. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and there are lots of fears tied into that, right? Because it's the
Hmm.
fear of rejection, the
Absolutely.
fear of not being accepted,
Mhm.
the fear of not being good enough,
Yep.
and the fear of being,
Abandonment. Yep. If they know who I
yeah,
am, they'll walk away, and
yeah,
that's even harder because then they know they're walking away from somebody they genuinely know. So,
yes, exactly. And of course, the fear of being judged.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think shame also comes into that too. And I think
Yes.
shame really lives in the dark. And if you shine a light onto it, you'll realize that it's not quite as shameful as you think it is, and some of that fear can start to dissipate, which is
Hmm.
it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, I think fear and
Good.
shame are both equally responsible for us shrinking away from
Yeah,
those the beautiful
exactly.
ones that we are. Yeah.
But that's not how we come into the world, right? I
Correct.
see us as
Mm.
perfect when we come into the world.
Yeah.
We are full of self-confidence. We have to, otherwise we would never learn to walk or talk,
Right.
right? We don't
Right.
give up. We are fearless. We are go-getters.
Bold.
So, yeah, somewhere things go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at some point in our childhood, and we all have that, we probably all have that moment where we realize, oh, hey, I'm not invincible. I'm not as perfect as I thought I was. I make mistakes, I fall down. And it's embarrassing. We start feeling that embarrassment. But yeah, I think at some point in our lives we let that overpower that boldness, that
Mhm.
that fear, that reality of imperfection sort of morphs into that fear and shame, and then that
Mhm.
starts overshadowing our greatness, and I don't like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And but the family system is very plays a very important role in that. And when parents say, "Oh, shush, don't be so loud," or "You
Right.
shouldn't say things like that," or "Don't do
Right.
that," or "Don't
Yeah.
act that way," or "Don't be like this," or
Yeah.
things like that, are playing a really big role in it. But also the
Uh-huh.
school system.
The school system, yeah, or society. Girls can't do that.
Yes, then indeed the male-female energy, and also the vision of society, or I call them the rules, the bullshit rules of society,
Right?
where a man is supposed to be strong and
Right.
confident and the head of the family and the one that has all the answers and that leads the family to nobody tells you,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
And the woman is supposed to be the compliant one, the warm one, the nurturing, the caring, and the stay at home. And that was the traditional role for both genders. And that also has changed because I don't know how it is in your country, but in this country, most people have to work both of them in
Yeah.
order to even be able to pay the bills.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it is here too as well. I think that's the world we live in, is there's a well, and
Yeah.
and and in America there's also a lot of we've almost gone the other direction as women, if you don't work, then you're wasting your talents and you're wasting your
Mhm.
intelligence and things like that. There's a lot of shoulds on the way we live now. You should do this, you should do that, you need to be doing this. And I always say, quit shoulding all over yourself, you know.
I like that.
Yeah.
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 I'm writing it down. Quit shitting all over yourself. I have to remember that, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
writing it down. But that's exactly it, right? And I had this wonderful talk the other day with a guy who said, "Well, we've been told that women need to emancipate." But man is in there, right? Emancipate. And
Mhm.
that is what I see happening with a lot of women. They sort of take on this manly
Fascinating.
attitude, this
Mhm.
manly role with the severe business suits, but
Right.
also the go-getter, don't stop at anything type of mentality. And that is also not helping.
I don't think so. I think I'm probably one of the hardest chargers you'll ever meet. But I can remember a time early in my career where I thought, oh my gosh, my femininity has gone completely out of the door, and I'm trying to fit into this box where if I'm going to compete in this male dominated world, I have to be more manly. And I was
Yeah.
miserable.
Yes.
And I was not fun to be around. I didn't like myself. My family was miserable. And when I finally realized, okay, you don't have to be somebody else to fit into that world. And
Mhm.
why would you? Why would you want to be? Why would you want to bring somebody else's gifts to the table when you're the only one that can bring your own gifts to the table?
Very,
So
very
yeah,
good
I
question.
I think
Yeah.
that's a very valid concern for
Yeah, and
many
I think
people.
it has to do with how we view things and how things are also being portrayed,
Right,
right? There is this image of a successful lawyer, or
right,
this image of a successful banker, or
right,
this image of a happy family, and
right,
especially this image also of the American dream, with
right.
the white picket fence. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of, well, shouldas.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult for people to let go of that because you are sort of being indoctrinated with it from a very young age, and it becomes exponentially worse when you go to school, because school is sort of like, well, a factory. And
Hmm.
everybody needs
Absolutely.
to go on the same conveyor belt, and then the same type of product drops off the conveyor belt at the end of it.
Right. Yeah.
So individuality is not promoted,
Yeah.
thinking for yourself is not promoted,
Yeah.
finding your specific gifts not promoted,
Right.
soft skills like
Right.
nonviolent communication,
Yeah.
intuition, what is it, what do you do with it, how do you work with it, how do you listen to it? All
Yeah.
of these things are not being taught in school. It's very male dominated, also facts,
Right.
knowledge, and being able to regurgitate it.
Yeah. Well, I think in some sense there's nothing wrong with that, but I also one of the reasons I really love the work you do, Barbara, is because when you take the humanity out of the facts and the strategy and all of that, that's where we go off the rails,
Yes.
because we should be creative, we should be our own unique selves, we should be allowed to pave our own way, but within the constructs of what we're trying to accomplish and who we're trying to accomplish it with. And I think that's one of the biggest tragedies of the school system, is that we beat the individuality. That's a big word. We and metaphorically, of course, beat it out of the kids, and
Yes.
instead of celebrating the creativity and the uniqueness of each individual.
Mhm.
And those highly sensitive people they have so much value in within the construct of our society, and it's a really good
Yes.
thing to nurture.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
mostly they have a really hard time at school.
Yeah,
I,
well, for
I,
sure. Yeah.
my friend has highly sensitive children,
Yeah.
and they are struggling at school. One of them is highly gifted, so
Mhm.
he's too smart, and
Right.
he gets bored, and
Yeah.
then the teachers call him disruptive.
Right.
And the other one is very insecure and shy,
Mhm.
and has trouble connecting, but
Yeah.
then discovered that he can be the clown joker, or the class joker, the class clown.
Right.
And then
This is where
people
I can
will,
fit.
right, people will laugh at him, and then they want to hang out with him, which makes
Yeah.
him feel really nice. And he's also picking up everybody's emotion and tension.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
makes him act out as the Joker, as the clown. And then he's put in the corner because of bad behavior, which is
Right.
really confusing to children. And
Yeah.
here, the classes have grown bigger and bigger. One
Mhm.
teacher is now responsible for 40 kids.
Too many. It's too many. It's too
Yes,
much.
you cannot give individual attention to a child when you have 40 children to take care
Right.
of. You cannot
Well,
celebrate the uniqueness of a child when there are so many children.
right. Yeah. 40 unique personalities, 40 sets of challenges, 40 children who may or may not have eaten well that day, 40 children who may or may not have slept well the night before. There's just so
Yeah.
many, we're taking the humanity out of it. And yeah,
Yes. Yes. And that is a real shame. And I think people are waking up to that now.
yeah, I think
I,
so too.
yeah.
I think so too. And what was really beautiful, I think, is when adults recognize it in themselves and start taking action to correct where they have gone sideways in
Mhm.
their lives and say, okay, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to stop shitting on myself. I'm going to be uniquely me. I'm going to use those God-given gifts and talents that were
Mhm.
placed in me, and I'm going to nurture those
Yes.
and bring those to the table wherever I
Yeah.
am. I think that's really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's usually the point where I meet those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
And
too.
yeah, it can
Yeah.
be that they have ended up in a severe burnout. Lots of especially the sensitive people end up in a burnout because they just give, and
Right.
forget to take care of themselves, and are
Yeah.
not taking enough action on the signals that their body is giving them, or they
Right.
don't recognize the signals. That's
Right.
sometimes also the case. And then you just keep on going and keep on going. And if the burnout didn't happen, I think they could literally work themselves into a grave.
Right. And I meet a lot of those folks in that burnout place as well, but I also meet a lot of folks that say, I want what you have. And my response is typically, well, you can't have what I have because you are not me. You are you. And they're like, well, whoa, what do you mean? And well, let's figure out what you were uniquely created for.
Yes.
And let's, maybe pursue that instead of somebody else's dream, somebody else's path. Let's figure out what your path is.
Yeah, but that's a very interesting thing because you can take it in many different ways, right?
Yeah.
So what you were talking about is when you take it literally. I want that office, I want that hair, I want those earrings, I want those clothes, and I
Right.
want that job. I want what you
Yeah.
have. But they can also refer to the autonomy that you'll have and the happiness that
Yeah.
shines out of your eyes, and
Yep.
they want something similar for
Yeah.
themselves.
And if it comes down to that, if it's on a very superficial level, I want what you have, and we start digging in deeper, then a lot of times that is what comes up. I like that you are your own boss, or I like this about your life, and I want to figure out how to implement that in mine. I think that's one of the things I think about humans is that we were created for community. And part of the reason we were created for community is that support and love that we get from one another, we can give and take with one another. And when it's not envy, when it's looking at somebody and appreciating
Yes.
X, Y, and Z, that's when it's really beautiful to be in community with somebody, because they're not trying to take away what you have or replicate what you have. They're recognizing, I think at a soul level, this piece of your life is so beautiful and appealing, and I would like to figure out how to implement that in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've often said if all sensitive people were to live on an island together, not be any criminality, murders, bad
Yeah.
things happening, because our primary instinct is to take care of the other. But if everybody's primary instinct is to take care of the other, then
Yeah.
everybody is always taken care of. And
Yeah.
there would not be jealousy, there would not be madness, hate, anger, or
Right.
any of those things. But it's the way Oh, that's why I came to the rules, right? It's the teachings of the generations before us about the way things are supposed to be, or the
Right.
way things are supposed to be done, the way things are supposed to be handled, the way things are supposed to be said. But who says that
Yeah.
that is the way it is supposed to be?
Right.
And somewhere, someone discovered that that works for them.
Right.
And for them, it's then the way that it's supposed to be, but it's specifically for them. And
Right.
it doesn't mean that it's also the way it's supposed to be for you.
Right.
Yet many of us don't question it.
Right.
We don't think, well, is this true for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is this actually what I want? We take it in, we take it over, and we act on it.
Yeah.
And we don't stop and think
Yeah.
and feel and see, but what is my truth? And that's a discussion I often have with people about the truth.
Right.
People talk about the truth as if there is the truth, one truth, the
There's one and it's universal.
yeah, but that's not true. Everybody has their own truth. So what is true for me cannot be true, or doesn't have to be true for you. Maybe, but maybe not. And what is true for you could be true for me, but maybe also not. So it's the uniqueness of each individual that makes it so valuable that you start asking questions about if things are true for you.
Right. Yeah. And I like how you put that in what way is it true for me, and in what way is it not true for me, and how can I find that path that honors both of those? I like
Yes.
that.
Exactly, because so many people that I talk to every single day are miserable. They
Mm,
feel stuck in a life that is not giving them joy. A lot of them feel shame, what we talked about before. They're ashamed to admit that they are unhappy because, to all intents and purposes, they are living the dream. They
right.
have a good job, they have a loving partner, maybe they have children, maybe they don't, maybe they have pets, maybe they don't. Usually they have a nice house, the white picket fence, everything that a lot of people want in their
Aspire.
lives. But
Yep.
they are unsatisfied and they feel ashamed for the fact that they are unsatisfied with their lives.
Yeah.
And it happened also in my education, but then with food. My mother always said, you need to appreciate this food because there's children in Africa that are starving.
Right.
And that's also with these types of things. You need to appreciate your house, your partner, your job, your children, and everything, because there are people who cannot have children or who are in unemployment and would kill for your job or things like that. And we give that too much power. Most of us give that too much power. We let ourselves be influenced by that at the expense of ourselves.
Mhm. I think there are a lot of people that can't even put a description to that emotion too. What am I feeling? I should, there's that word again. I should be happy, grateful, excited, etc. But I feel something just feels off.
Hmm.
And that I think that's where my Created for More campaign has come from, is that just because you have the American dream, just because you have everything that society says you should have to be happy, that if something feels off, then there's a disconnect somewhere, and that's
Hmm.
okay. There's no shame in that. There's an opportunity to self-correct, there's an opportunity to grow, there's an opportunity to pivot. If you're feeling off about something, it's probably an indication from somewhere deep within that something needs to change. And the first step would be maybe putting words to what that feeling is, and then start digging into what it is that's off.
Yes, exactly. And often you need outside help because it's
Mhm.
very difficult to determine this for yourself, because it all hinges on finding the right words and also being able to go around the blind spot that we all have for parts
Blind
of
spots.
ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And what I see is that a lot of us are disconnected from our intuition
Mm-hmm.
and we are not
Mm-hmm.
feeling in our body, is this right for me? No, we are
Yeah.
doing everything with the mental.
Yeah. Or if we feel it in our body, oh gosh, maybe I'm just tired. Or
Yeah, or I need to
we're
take an
trying to
aspirin.
explain it away rather than
Yeah.
examining that. What is making me feel this way? Because yeah, and I work primarily with women, but I even have women that are so distrusting of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel this way, but I'm probably not looking at this correctly. Well, let maybe trust yourself a little bit and examine
Mm-hmm.
that. It's okay to feel off. It's okay to feel unhappy. It's okay to feel all these feelings from all these things, but maybe let's not live there. Let's figure it out and move
Yeah.
forward. I love that so much.
Yeah, and often it's learned behavior. There are have been people in your life, probably in your childhood, that have told you, "Oh, don't be so silly,"
Yeah,
or
we're
"Don't be so
selfish.
sensitive," or "Yeah, be selfish," or "Oh,
Mhm.
you should maybe not eat all of that candy because your pants are a little bit tight, my dear,"
Right, right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
I've seen so many.
all the things that we hear.
Yeah, so many people who have internal damage because of most often casual remarks. And
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I honestly believe that a lot of them were not even said with a bad intention. Of
Right.
course, there are a lot that are
Fearless.
said with bad
Yeah.
intention, but there are also that are not said with a bad intention, but
Right.
also not with the awareness of the influence or the effect that it can have on other people if that is the only thing that they're hearing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My daughter said to me the other day, she said, Mama, I realized recently how much you tried to speak life into us as we were growing up. And I'm like, wow, thank you so much for saying that. I tried. I know that I also probably dropped some careless words from
Mm,
that did damage, and both can coexist,
yes.
and both came with the very best of intentions, but yeah, we live in a fallen world, and people are human, and will make mistakes,
Mhm.
and it's up to me as the receiver to process that in such a way that it doesn't drag me down and down
No,
and down.
But that's why it's so important to teach that you need to question things.
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
don't think it serves any point to say, "Oh, you did this to me, and you did that, and you're to blame for this, and you're to blame for
Right.
that." You know, if
Right.
if I look at my childhood, there have balls have been dropped and mistakes have been made. But my parents are also the product of their upbringing, and my grandparents are the product of their upbringing, and
Right.
everybody tries to do the best that they can with the
Right.
tools and the abilities that they have at hand.
Mhm.
And yeah, sometimes that falls short, and
Right.
sometimes that doesn't come even close. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's three quarters, and still you can have damage. So
Yeah.
it's not only trauma or abuse that causes this disconnect. You can
Right.
have the most loving parents and feel like you've had an amazing childhood, but
Right.
still have received damage by
Right.
him.
Oh, 100%. And I think if you think you haven't, you maybe want to re-examine that. And again, it's not a scenario where it's mutually exclusive. You can have a great childhood and also have some damage that you're carrying out of that you have to then process,
Mhm.
and re-examine how that affected you, because it does affect, especially when you're a highly sensitive person, especially when you're a feeler
Yeah.
and a deep thinker, and all those beautiful things. Those things can cause damage, but it's not permanent damage. It doesn't have to be permanent damage, and it
No.
doesn't have to be shameful, and it doesn't have to be blaming your parents. And then it's just something that is. It's something that exists, and we need to handle it. And the really, really brave, powerful people that I see handling it are the ones that say, "This has happened. This is why it happened. This is who did it. I forgive. I can process this and move on." That learn and grow from it. I think that's very brave.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
very
the
wise.
bravest thing I can think of, actually, where you
Mhm.
are able to look at, well, everything that went wrong, but also your own behavior, right?
Right,
The things that you are not proud of, the
right.
things that you do or say that you think, and it comes from a place. All of our
Yeah.
behavior comes from a certain place, and it takes guts to start
Mhm.
looking for it and to
Yeah.
acknowledge and admit that, well, this wasn't my best behavior, and then to go look for the source for it and then heal it, because
Right.
that's a beautiful circle go back to our topic.
Yeah.
We are meant for more, but a
Right.
lot of people settle for less.
Right. Yeah. 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 I think we are created for really big lives and really big impact and really big love and really big friendships and just really a really big life, but we settle for small or smaller than is necessary because we're too scared to examine those things and move past those things. And I think we also have a tendency to try and insulate ourselves from further damage. And
Yes.
there's just no way to do that. I mean, the only way to insulate yourself from any kind of damage is to insulate yourself from everything, the
Mhm.
good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's going to cause its own damage. So, be
Yeah.
brave, get out there and get your more.
I tried to prevent further damage by controlling everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get
But you
that.
cannot control
I feel
everything,
that deep in my soul, Miss Barbara.
right? And I see that with a lot of people, and that also it's not the way to go. But there was so little control in my life that
Yeah,
when you then turn adult and you're on your own, then you think, well, I'm going to try to make it as
right,
best as possible by controlling
right.
as many things as I can, so that I can be sort of sure of all the outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah, or hiding away from the things that I can't control. Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
I feel that to my bones, my friend.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And that sooner or later leads to more unhappiness and more misery because the only thing that is certain in life is that things are changing and that nothing is certain.
yeah. I think that's one of the things that is so cool about living in the time that we live in. There's so much knowledge and resources and empathy and understanding around all of these topics that we didn't have when we were growing up.
Yes.
And the next generation is going to carry that knowledge and tools and resources even farther. And
Mhm.
it's just really neat to see people understanding and embracing the way they were beautifully created and embracing that we're different and we don't have to fit in a box. And a lot of those things, I think there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But it's really neat to see that people, like for instance, your show. Uh, can you imagine a show like this 40 years ago? No.
Yeah.
But now it's just it's a welcome addition to the narrative.
hmm
It's
And
really
that's a
good.
big reason of the why behind my show, because there
Yeah.
was nothing, even 20 years ago, there was nothing.
Mhm.
10
Yeah.
years ago, there was nothing.
Yeah.
So this is a fairly new development, which I wholeheartedly encourage because
Yeah.
there was nothing when I was going through my shit. And I had
Right.
to take the long, difficult,
Right.
bumpy road
Right. Yes.
to get to
Yeah.
where I am. And that's why I think there's this sort of collective, yeah, what will be the West word for it? There's, I think the 50, 40, 30 year olds, maybe 60, but I think 50, 40, 30, we
Mhm.
have this sort of responsibility
Mhm.
to clear all of this
Mhm.
because what I see in the children of my friend, for them it's really different. If I see children now with their phone being an extension of their hand, being able to control their entire life by their phone,
Yeah.
we had a rotary phone growing up. Yes, I am that old. No.
Me too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's those generations that can, sort of take the fuse out of or the stinger out of
Yeah.
all of this karma that we've been carrying around, so that we don't hand it down to the generation
Mhm.
because it doesn't work for them at all anymore, and they're already going in a vastly different direction than was even possible
Right.
for us when we were children.
Right.
So it's also not their, well, shit to clear.
Right. Well, they'll have less shit to clear when it's their turn because we've cleared some of it. That's the goal, right? It's just to make
Yes.
forward progress and to do better than what was done before, just because we have more knowledge and more resources available to us. And then when the kids come up that are in their 20s now, or when they're in their 50s, they're going to do better too. Well,
Mhm.
that's the hope anyway. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That is the hope. And that's also why we need to talk about things like
Hmm.
that so that
Yeah.
it can come to light. Like I said,
Right.
as soon as you shine a light on things,
Yep.
then change is possible. And
Yep.
we are changing, the world is changing,
Yep.
the era is changing, times are changing. And
Yeah.
if we stay stuck in things that don't work, then it's not going to happen. It's going to be a tremendous rift.
Yeah.
So we need to work on our flexibility, on being able to roll with the punches and to handle life when it comes, and to find beauty in everything that happens, and to, well, trust, I would say, trust
Right.
that in the end, the higher power, whether you call it God or the universe or source energy, it doesn't really matter. It wants you to prosper. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to have a good life. And when you're not doing it, then these are the things that you should take a hard look at.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I ascribe to the higher power being God, and very from a very biblical standpoint, we were created to be in community with him and with each other. And when we stray too far off of that path, when we're sinful and deceitful and all the fulls, all the icky stuff,
Yeah.
and not leaning into those God-given gifts and talents and pursuing joy, then yeah, there's a disconnect there that doesn't need to be there.
No,
So
exactly.
yeah.
I've been loving our talk, and I can imagine you, viewer, listener out there, that you've been loving our talk as well. So I would love it if you could share in the comments what is your biggest takeaway or your key insight that you've gotten after listening to our talk here today. And while you're at it, it would also be awesome if you aren't already a subscriber that you subscribe to the channel, maybe hit the notification bell so that you never miss another video again. And I can also imagine that you think, well, I need one of you. How you can find me, most of you already know, but where and how can people find and connect with you, Candice?
I appreciate that. I appreciate that question, Miss Barbara. I coach at the Aurora Network, and our website is auroranetwork.life. And anything you need, we can get you in touch with there. We've got groups of coaches. We've got lots of opportunities to connect, and I'd love to connect with you.
I love it. I will make sure that there's a link to the Aurora Network in the show notes of this episode, probably below this video or somewhere to the side. And I spoke also with your business partner today, and what I understood is that you are a collective of coaches with
We
all
are,
their
yeah.
individual specialities. So if you have issues with finance, you can come to the Aurora Network. If it's personal, you can come to the Aurora Network. So multidisciplinary.
Correct. Yeah, we're multidisciplinary with Jesus at the middle. Yep.
Yes.
Anything you need, we've got you, girl.
I love it. Well, there you have it. This was our take on You Were Meant for More, and we wholeheartedly stand behind that. And I want to thank everybody for being here, for tuning in, for listening, for your ongoing support and love for the show, for sharing episodes and making more and more people aware of wonderful conversations like this. And of course, Candace, I want to thank you for being here and for being so open and having this absolutely wonderful conversation with me today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, all of you. I wish you an amazing rest of your day wherever you are, and I will hope to catch you again in a next interview or one of the next videos on my channel. For right now, I wish you an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk again soon.